It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on fourth down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions, too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.
Tennessee has all but secured their spot in the college football playoffs. Paige Dowert, Jimmy Himes. Jimmy, after a freezing cold start, their start was just about as cold as the weather was at kickoff for Tennessee's offense. They really warmed it up after Nico Iamaleava and Dante Thornton connected for a couple of touchdown passes. But to start the game, it could not have gone any worse for Tennessee. After Vanderbilt returns, the opening kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown, Dylan Sampson fumbles it a couple of plays later. They're scoring once again. What was maybe kind of your reaction early in this game where they were down 14-0 early?
Uh-oh. And I'm sitting there thinking, I just saw Georgia Tech push Georgia to 8 overtimes, and Georgia Tech actually had a great chance to beat them. I'm thinking this one's going to probably go down to the wire. I did expect Tennessee to respond, but boy, did they respond in a terrific way. After they got down 14-0, it was interesting. Josh Heupel said that he thought the Tennessee fans probably lost their composure while the Tennessee players did not. So there was a lot of angst among the Vol Nation about getting down 14-0 to Vanderbilt. But my goodness, once after Vanderbilt kicked a field goal to get their 17th point, Tennessee outscored Vanderbilt 36-3 until Vanderbilt scored a late touchdown when Tennessee went into its prevent defense. And they also held Vanderbilt after that field goal to that final drive to 61 total yards. So the defense turned it around. The offense got going. As you mentioned, Nico hitting Dante Thornton with a touchdown pass. He hit him for another one of 80, what was it, 80, 86 yards. I think the third longest play in Tennessee history. So once Tennessee got the momentum, once they got it going, once they started converting third downs and stopping Vanderbilt on third down, man, it was all over. But that was a very terrific bounce back and a very resilient performance by Tennessee.
Yeah, and what I liked about that 86-yard pass to Dante Thornton was Tennessee's Stats and Info had a really nice tweet about it. And they said that that play marked the longest pass completion since Casey Clausen's 90-yard pass to Mark Jones in 2003 against Georgia.
Yeah, actually, I remember that pass. But yeah, that was big. And as I watched Thornton, I'm thinking, I'm not sure he's going to get there. I know he's fast, but he's not 100%. And then, as we know, he caught 2 touchdown passes and didn't even play the second half because he was banged up. Brew McCoy didn't play. Squirrel White got hurt. And so they needed that production from Thornton at that particular time to help Tennessee seize the momentum, which they were able to do.
Yeah, and it was really after they were able to just get out of that first quarter and put that behind them, and their drive continuing in the second quarter, where they were really able to turn it on. And it was that connection that Nico had with Dante Thornton. It was a 20-yard touchdown pass, 28-yard touchdown pass, and then it was an 86-yard touchdown pass. And what was really nice about it, because you talk about maybe Dante Thornton not having enough gas or speed to get him to the end zone on that second touchdown completion or reception, was Mike Matthews actually set up a phenomenal leading block for Dante Thornton, and he just found the edge to that and just took the sideline down to the end zone. And I think it's that moment by the freshman phenom in Mike Matthews that probably flies a little bit under the radar, more so than it probably should.
Yeah, that was a huge block on his part, and he also added a touchdown catch of his own. So a nice performance for the freshman receiver. But God, that was such a big play for Tennessee to score to get the ball on their own 9-yard line, and then boom, boom, they're in the end zone on the other end. And I think that really deflated Vanderbilt a lot. That particular play. There were other big plays in the game, but to me, there were none bigger than that one.
Yeah, Nico, he had a great stretch. He was brilliant in the third quarter where he completed 7 of his 10 pass completions. He had a stretch of 5 straight completions. The first one was that touchdown to the freshman Mike Matthews. And just the way that he was able to be decisive and explosive with the ball. And I know that was one of our keys to the game on Friday about taking advantage of a weaker pass defense in Vanderbilt. That's exactly what they did in this game.
And Nico threw 4 touchdown passes. How many TD passes did he have in the previous 7 SEC games? 5. So he almost matched his season total for touchdown passes in the SEC. I thought he was really sharp, but having said that, he had great protection. Tennessee's offensive line did a great job of giving him time to throw. And then on the few times he got pressured, he was able to scramble out and gain some yards. So, but I thought it was a terrific performance by Nico. He kind of did that. I know UTEP's not nearly the quality of opponent as Vanderbilt, but he kind of did that against UTEP. He didn't have a great start. And then from the second quarter on, he was terrific then. He was terrific today against Vanderbilt after a little bit of a slow start. Not all of his fault, but it was a bit of a slow start. But man, when they got it clicking, I thought, well, now that's kind of the offense I'd been looking for in the SEC for much of this season. Going into that game, Tennessee was averaging less than 24 points per game in SEC play. And here they are against a Vanderbilt team that had a pretty good defense, and they just riddled them once they got it going. And then in the second half, Tennessee got the run game going. And you know how many possessions Vanderbilt had in the second half?
Tell me.
3.
Wow.
3.
At Wallace Real Estate, trust is more than just a word. It's been our foundation since 1936. Whether you seek backyard adventures or a quiet spot for your morning coffee, we understand what makes a house a home. Our agents are here to simplify your home journey and to lead you through the process, whether buying or selling. With Wallace Real Estate, you're getting more than guidance. You're gaining a local partner dedicated to bringing your dreams to life. Start your real estate journey at wallacetn.com.
And one of them was on a safety.
Yes.
Tennessee did a great job of consuming time of possession. They had sustained drives, 13 plays, 9 plays, 13 plays, 10 plays. They ran 43 plays, Tennessee did in the second half, to Vanderbilt's 10. That's unheard of. That is unheard of.
And wasn't there a stat where Vanderbilt's defense has only let like opposing teams have about like 60 plays per game, and Tennessee, I think, went on to have like 73 some plays?
Yeah, 62 plays is what they were giving up. Tennessee had 73. And but I tell you what I give them a lot of credit for is their ability to run that clock in the second half, to milk it. We know they like to go up tempo, but they did such a nice job of hey, they ran out the last almost 6 minutes of the game. And one of the things they did that was impressive was they had a lot of 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. And so when you stay ahead of the chains like that, that makes it easier. And then not to be lost in all this was the play of Dylan Sampson. My goodness. Over 170 yards. He sets the Tennessee single season rushing record that Travis Stevens set in 2001. He already had the record for most total touchdowns and most rushing touchdowns. It is the singular greatest rushing season in Tennessee history when you go by the record books. And I give him a lot of credit. And late in that game, he made some darn good runs, and runs that looked like you're going to get 5 yards, he got 11. Runs that looked like maybe 7 yards, he got 15. I thought in that fourth quarter he was particularly good.
Yeah, his second effort that he had in this game was just phenomenal. And that's what led to these plays where you think he's going to get stopped after 1 or 2 yards and he gets, 5-10 yards. It was late in that game too, where the tempo certainly slowed down for Tennessee's offense, that I thought this was going to be, a personal stat that that Dylan could continue and get another rushing touchdown to score in every game this season. Unfortunately, personally, he doesn't get that, but he's continued just a phenomenal season this season. After the game, Josh Heupel says that he doesn't know anyone who's played that position better, especially this year. So kind of continues to feed into the narrative of how he got snubbed from the Doak Walker Award finalist list. But yeah, what he's been able to do this season has been fantastic. And what was nice about this game is that while you maybe want him to go and get that touchdown because he's done it all season long, Tennessee's offense didn't really need him to do that today because they were so effective in the passing game.
Yeah, they were. And Nico threw some really nice balls for touchdowns. The one he threw to the tight end, Miles Kitselman.
Yes, the 18-yarder.
Bro, yeah. And when I watched him, he kind of double pumped, and I thought, I hope if he doesn't throw this thing in a hurry, Kitselman's going to be out of the end zone.
Yeah.
But he did have enough room to catch it and get that touchdown. And So they were able to score on those pass plays, which did not call for Sampson to score touchdowns inside the red zone. But I guess it's now, I should embarrassingly say that I have voted on Doak Walker for about 30-something years. I don't know how in the world he's not on that list. He's on the Maxwell Award list for the National Player of the Year, but
Yeah.
he's not on the Doak Walker list. And look, there's some great running backs. I'll grant it. I looked at them. There's some very deserving running backs. But my goodness, Dylan Sampson deserved to be on that list.
He absolutely did, and it still is stunning that he is not at least considered in the finalists, because we know what Ashton Genty has been doing, but for Dylan to not even be in the conversation still seems a little foolish. So yeah, Tennessee's offense, it looked great. Nico looked as decisive and explosive as what we've seen him all season long. Now you likely have about 3 weeks or so to get ready for the first round of the college football playoffs, which Tennessee is all but a sure thing in that, and we'll get to that in just a second. Because I want to talk about Tennessee's defense, because they could have, kind of fallen apart in this game after going down 14-0 early. Jermon McCoy after the game was like, you just can't look at the scoreboard. You just kind of have to play, each drive or snap individual of the next. And you could kind of see that's what this defense did. They did a great job at the line of scrimmage by not allowing these explosive runs. They had a number of batted passes at the line of scrimmage as well. And then what they're thinking is maybe what changed the momentum in this game was that interception by Jermon McCoy in the end zone.
What a spectacular interception for that ball to be tipped up like that and for him to come down with it. And I'll say this, the defense was a little bit shaky early. They allowed Vanderbilt 3 of 3 on third downs, and Vanderbilt was one of the best in the nation in third down conversions. And I'm thinking, boy, here they go again. But after that, Vanderbilt converted only one out of what was it? They finished 4 out of 10, right? So they were 1 of 7 on third down after that. And so Tennessee's defense tightened up in that regard. And really, there were a number of possessions where Vanderbilt just got nothing. And Diego Pavia had maybe about 35 or 40 passing yards until that last touchdown drive. He ended up with a little over 100, but he got about 60 on that last drive. And so when Tennessee went into the prevent defense, which I'm not a big fan of, but anyway, it worked out. But yeah, he hit him on some passes there. Otherwise, they really contained him, did a very nice job against him. Still was a little bit bothered by the number of penalties Tennessee had. My goodness, they had double digits in penalties. They had personal fouls, illegal procedures, offsides. And I know they ended up winning easily, but I keep sitting there watching and thinking, guys, that's not good enough if you're going to play Georgia again. That's not good enough if you're going to play a team in the playoffs. You've got to avoid that. And some of them, quite frankly, were just stupid penalties. They've got to play with more discipline and be smarter. And I know that Hype was scratching his head about that, but Tennessee, I think, is last or next to last in the SEC in most penalties per game.
Yeah.
And they need to, I'm sitting there saying that, and they're 12 games in. So I'm not so sure they're going to correct that all of a sudden. But it is kind of maddening to watch them commit as many penalties as they do, knowing how good this team can be.
Especially the ones that are, personal fouls are just, silly penalties. I mean, even Cooper Mays getting the ineligible receiver downfield, just getting caught in a bad spot. John Campbell Jr. Getting that personal foul penalty after what would have been a really nice first down. And you see Josh Heupel waving him off as he's kind of just still complaining as he comes off the sideline. It's really those penalties that are most frustrating. I could maybe excuse, the false starts or the offsides, but when you get to these discipline type of penalties, that's when it becomes incredibly frustrating. Like you mentioned, we 12 games into it and it's still happening.
Yeah, and that's head scratching. And I will say this, there was kind of a late hit on the quarterback one time I thought was a little bit questionable.
Mm-hmm.
There was a horse collar that I thought, okay, I get that. I can see what you would call that. But the one with Campbell is just ridiculous. I mean, that's a late hit. You got to know better than that. And I don't know what he's mad about. It's just a stupid penalty on his part.
Yeah.
So take it. And then I know that Heupel was frustrated with him, but you just can't do stuff like that. And you got to be better than that. Having said all that, where's Tennessee going next?
To the playoffs, staying at home maybe for a playoff game.
I think there's a good chance of that. I think Ohio State losing to Michigan opens the door for that. And I've said this for many years, but more recently, the most upsets occur in what month? November. And so we'll continue to see. There'll be some more today that might continue to open the door for Tennessee. Here's the other thought too. Georgia did not help itself by going into 8 overtimes against Georgia Tech. If they lose the SEC championship game, and that's a third loss, I think it's conceivable Tennessee could jump them. It's only one spot different. I
Yeah.
think Tennessee right now, though, is in pretty good position to host a game. If Texas loses to A&M and Texas has no wins over a ranked team, what are you going to do with Texas? So I think Tennessee would have a pretty good argument to move ahead of Texas. So I think Tennessee right now is in really good position to host. There's no question they're in.
Right.
That was resolved by the committee on Tuesday night, provided Tennessee beat Vanderbilt. Now the question is, do you get to host? And if they do, goodness gracious, Knoxville is going to be electric.
Yeah, what a time to be on Rocky Top. And I think when you consider their, chance and now reality to be in the college football playoffs, you just have to imagine, the excitement level on campus, because Josh Heupel in his post game, talked a lot about how when he came to the program, you had recruiting restrictions, you had scholarship reductions, and you had a lot of guys leave. And he says he never wanted to make an excuse or bring too much light to it, but he's like, the fact that we're kind of in this position and being able to do what we're doing now is just a testament to guys like Omari Thomas that stayed, and the coaches that stayed and came and are now a part of the program, and just what he's now been able to do to have another 10-win season in just 4 seasons here, which is not a very common reality for Tennessee football, to have a coach win so many 10-win seasons. And for him to do that, and this 10-win gets him in the playoffs, that's incredible.
In the last 3 years, there are only 2 SEC teams that have won more games than Tennessee: Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think you got to go back to maybe the mid-90s to find the last time that Tennessee won this many games in a 3-year stretch, 30 wins. So
Yeah.
this is it's remarkable what he's been able to do. I liked a lot what he said when he first got here about, we're not going to put a ceiling on how many wins we might get. That was in year 1. And they won 7 games and went to a bowl game. They said, we're not going to put a ceiling on it. And then, of course, year 2, they win 11 and have a great year. And then this year, this team's not as good as 2022, but by golly, they managed to get 10 wins. They have managed to get into the college football playoff. And I think from that standpoint, you can look at it like, well, they didn't play offensively as good as we thought.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, this defense has been outstanding with one exception, at Georgia, and they've managed to get 10 wins, and they may even host a college football playoff game. So, I mean, this has been a remarkably successful season for Tennessee, in my opinion. I had them going 9-3 and being a borderline college football playoff team at the start of the year. But now they've exceeded what I thought by one game, and certainly they're in the playoff, and there's no question they're in the playoffs. It's just a matter of whether or not they get to host.
I think a lot of the time, especially heading into this week and for this game, and the spread being 11 points, and Vanderbilt's a team on the rise, and Tennessee's a team that hasn't really clicked the way we've wanted to or expected them to all season. For them to meet in this game and it kind of not go any way that anyone thought it would, where Diego Pavia did not look great, the Tennessee defense stepped up, the Tennessee offense has looked as best as it has since the beginning of the season. This is the exact game that nobody wanted Tennessee to have heading into the playoffs, and is exactly what they have heading into the playoffs.
It was interesting in following and watching some of the national media talking about Tennessee. They feel like Tennessee's a very dangerous team, and I do too. They're dangerous because their defense is outstanding,
Mm-hmm.
and they're dangerous because they really have not clicked it in gear offensively as well as we know they can play. Now, they had this stretch against Vanderbilt that was impressive.
Yes.
And as you pointed out earlier about Vanderbilt's pass defense, it wasn't very good, so we thought they could take advantage of that. I think Nico has grown. I thought he turned the corner several games ago, and I think he continues to show that. And turning the corner doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to win the Heisman Trophy. It means that you're going to typically play at a high level, that your ceiling, you have raised the ceiling of your play, because he's playing much better now than he did in some SEC games earlier. And you got 4 touchdown passes against Vanderbilt. So I think he's really, I thought he had a heck of a game today. Really played well, decision making, didn't throw too many errant passes. I thought he was outstanding today. Played more like what I thought he would play going back to the start of the season.
And what I liked about the offense too is, so many people still want to talk about the 2022 season and Hendon Hooker and how explosive it was, how fast it was. What was nice coming out of that UTEP game where we kind of noticed there were some moments where there was that up-tempo offense. Nico looked really sharp. Their scoring drives only took a couple of minutes each time. So this up-tempo offense that we wanted to see, we're seeing in this game against Vanderbilt, where they've had a couple, one touchdown was 5 plays, 73 yards, a minute and a half. You had another one that was 2 plays, 91 yards, thanks to Dante Thornton, only took 32 seconds. You had another that was 217 for 10 plays, 96 yards. So to see them be able to kind of be that well-oiled machine, this is exactly what we needed to see. Now that you have a couple more weeks to really work on it. So it kind of gets you excited. Like, all right, you have the perfect game to build off of. The momentum they'll have, especially if they're at home, like you say, it could make for a really dangerous team.
Well, and so what I really liked about what you just said is how fast the up-tempo and they scored quickly. But when they needed to gear it down, run the clock, put this game away, they did it. When you run out the last 6 minutes of a game, that's pretty impressive. And I know somebody's like, how come Clark Lee didn't call more timeouts? He called a timeout. Tennessee immediately got a first down. And just mathematically, there was no way that Vanderbilt was going to catch him. And he just said, and I'm glad he did because this game lasted long enough. But he just said, okay, that's it. We have no chance to win this game. We're just going to run the clock out. And he did. But no, after he called the timeout, Tennessee got the first down. There was no way that Vanderbilt had a chance to win it. So, and I thought the offensive line actually became more dominant in that fourth quarter than they had been at any point in the game. They were controlling the line of scrimmage, and I'm not going to say Vanderbilt surrendered, but I think they were really tired at that point, and they just didn't have much more in the tank. I didn't think Vanderbilt's defensive line.
I don't think so either. And you have all those fans in Nashville at the game, feeling like a home game, and just a great way for the senior class to go out in the regular season. And then now we'll hear from Josh Heupel on Wednesday as they get ready for hopefully all but secured in the college football playoff and maybe a home game. So this will be a good season for us, Jimmy. We get another game.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and may get 2 games. You never know.
Never know.
Or 3, hey. But
They've been talking about 17 games all season. You never know.
I'm really curious to see what the selection committee does on Tuesday night, because I think based on what happens today, and there's still more games to be played, I think there's a really good chance that you're going to see Tennessee move up 1 notch. And that's all it takes for them to be able to host a first-round game. So I think Tuesday night could be really exciting for Tennessee fan base.
I think until Tuesday night, we'll all be on the edge of our seats. But until then, we'll enjoy some college football, enjoy the win for Tennessee heading into the rest of the weekend. And then, of course, we'll be back on Wednesday to talk all things Tennessee football. Talk to you guys then.
Thanks, Paige.